The Great Pyramid never ceases to astound, regardless of how often you see it. It is simply amazing due to its enormous size, flawless symmetry, and more than 4,500 years of standing. As the final resting place of Pharaoh Khufu, this is no typical tomb. You find yourself wondering how as you stand in front of it. John Romer, a British archaeologist, has been looking for answers for 40 years, but the mystery still stands. According to an old Arab proverb, time fears the pyramids, but man fears time. It must have appeared unearthly when covered in shining white limestone. One question remains to this day. What did they do? The Great Pyramid is flawless. It's not just a massive pile of rocks arranged precisely on top of one another. It appears to be quite precise. It was constructed 2,000 years before Pythagoras developed his triangle theorem, and its perfect angles and joins make it the most precise and perplexing structure in the world. You just need to know where to look. Right now, this angle needs to be extremely accurate because if you're even a fraction of a degree off, where it takes off from the bottom, you'll be yards up in the air up there. What's so amazing about the Great Pyramid is that, despite its complexity, it was designed using only a few basic tools, the naked eye and a piece of string, to create one of the most accurate buildings ever. 45 centuries later, it is still more accurate than many contemporary skyscrapers. Points of the survey. Obviously, the precision was no accident, but how the ancient builders got it so right, without modern equipment, no one's worked out until now. So, what are we looking at here? Well, this is for survey points. They're key. Understanding how this pyramid was made. People have been tripping over these survey marks for centuries, but extraordinarily, John Romo is the first to see their significance in cracking one of the pyramid's startling secrets. This one is really exciting because he found a one-to-one plan of the pyramid mapped out on the Giza Plateau right next to the Great Pyramid. The plan is the pyramid itself because if you want to keep something that accurate, the way to do it is to make your plan the same size as the finished thing by measuring out the life-size plan with string. The Egyptians were able to get their ancient calculations in cubits perfect. Now, this is the clincher. And no matter what people say about what I'm telling you, they never did this. But what no one will ever be able to ignore is that if you measure 40 cubits from that point out there, you get exactly the angle of the pyramids, not vaguely, not nearly about 51 degrees for 50 minutes. What does that tell you, though? We are standing in a sort of design lab where they controlled the architecture of the pyramid. John's discovery, however, doesn't end there. He thinks he has discovered another plan for the inside of the pyramid that is similar to the exterior, but slightly offsets the difference between the two grids, giving the pyramid its magical angles. Why haven't these two plans been found earlier? People were searching for a single design, but what I found was two designs, like a double helix, that were slightly disjunctive from one another. I think earlier people were let down because they thought there must have been a single plan. Now that we're inside the Great Pyramid, we're entering the Grand Gallery, the largest room in the pyramid, where precision is crucial due to its narrow, steep passageways. These tunnels were constructed as control lines for the builders rather than for access. The Great Step, a large stone fragment that falls in the center of the pyramid at the top of the Grand Gallery, is proof that the ancient Egyptians were on schedule with their construction. Yes, it's the foundation of the pyramid. You know, this is the center line we're setting up again So the head of the pyramid is the point of the pyramid precisely, Madeline. The gallery and the majesty of its polished walls and vaulted ceiling are breathtaking. The fact that I'm precisely 300 feet up there is unsettling. So this demonstrated to the ancient Egyptians that they were correct up to this point. It didn't premiere, though, because they knew we were checking, so they thought, oh, we can't find anything wrong with them. They ducked down for one more quick, tense trip, and now we're in King Khufu's burial chamber in the center of the pyramid, which is the burial chamber climax. There are no elaborate hieroglyphs in this enormous tomb, but its granite walls are flawless, and his name is just as plain as the others, on the box where he was buried. The only surviving statue of King Khufu, the man who constructed one of the 7 wonders of the world, is small and is housed in the Cairo Museum. Yes, his burial chamber was brimming with luxury items from his home, including gold-inlaid furniture and exquisite jewelry. It was a beautiful and sophisticated time, 4,500 years ago. Why is this all that's left of Khufu? It's a chance to acquire 1 king, 100 statues, and the man who built the Great Pyramid. You end up with this little statue, which is always a friend of mine. It's a pretty little blue statue that looks out into eternity. Back in the pyramid, the adventure becomes even more thrilling as we ascend a steep, precarious ladder into a narrow, cramped corridor above the king's burial chamber. No one is permitted up here, which is one of the reasons I'm stuck. The fact that you can see Nathan's marks here in these hot, airless chambers is what makes this crazy journey worthwhile. The beginning of the kingdom, however, is symbolized by a small prayer, possibly sails of boats, and a boat's sail full of wind that vanishes beneath the block, implying that we must build this pyramid quickly, and that wind on the river is necessary to move these blocks over. This has to do with a workday. Oh, this is it. You are witnessing the construction of a pyramid. This is a pyramid in action, which is why it is nearly worth the effort. You almost want to pinch yourself among the early Egyptologists' 19th and 20th century graffiti, which is evidence that the king built the pyramid. There is a name in the ring, and red survey lines from 4,500 years ago are all over the place, demonstrating how each rock fits precisely into place. These gaps were added to ensure that the burial chamber's roof wouldn't collapse under the weight of the top half of the pyramid. Those are the guys' fingerprints, and they simply reach out and touch the TV in the Great Pyramid. Magnificent limestone quarry. Our next step back in time will be to visit the nearby limestone quarry, where the ancient workers also left their mark. It's moving to see master craftsmen creating a masterpiece. Every stone has meaning for me now. Here, they constructed this massive wrap. How did they physically remove the rock? The great thing is that you can start it, like Ice Rock Hall is from the old days of rock haulers, and it seems like they love it. All you need is half a dozen men, a lot of water, and a stone of mud. As far as I can tell, what about this? This idea that these were slaves who were forced to work in quarries where they weren't willing workers at all is, in my opinion, a work of passion. When you look at the work's purity and integrity, nobody gets it. If you're trying to get an inch, it doesn't help when someone is working on your back. Here, there was also a building frenzy, as the ancient Egyptians laid these enormous stones, 2 of them every 3 minutes. They slowed down a little bit as they approached the top, but overall they maintained that frantic pace. At the center of construction, 25,000 men were building the pyramid, and John also found they made it farther faster than initially estimated. On average, these stones weigh 2.5 tons, with just over 2 million of them chiseled to fit each other. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, if you will. For 14 years, Liza, no, and up to something so large that it's complete overkill, they never did it again. It's just this one special building that, when completed, was magical to them. And it would have been amazing for you and me if we had completed it. The Great Pyramid. Tell me what they would see coming up here, and keep in mind that they are heading into the dark. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have seen the Great Pyramid in all its white gleaming glory before its limestone casing was ravaged? They are leaving down there. There is a very small corridor that leads up a fairly steep hill for 1.5 miles. 4,500 years ago, worshippers walked up a black rock corridor to honor the dead king. The amazing thing is that even today, the Great Pyramids still left an impression on show business architecture. 146 meters high and 230 meters wide on each side, it dwarfed all other buildings in antiquity. As those visitors entered the temple, the added space made it seem as though they were entering a different world. You were throwing the doors open, and it would have physically struck you in the eyes. But no, there is this perfect white geometric shape and pure white pyramid that no one had ever seen in the world before, like a Cadillac parked in that jungle. Most importantly, they passed away and entered heaven, which is precisely what they were doing beautifully after Derby. Hi, this is Syed Ali Liaquat. Thank you for viewing. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to receive the most recent updates from 60 Minutes Australia. For full episodes and other unique 60-minute content, you can also download the 9Now app.